"Excuse me, sir. Is there a problem here?" The voice was crisp and edged with impatience, slicing through the gentle murmur of the grand, majestic hotel lobby. Captain Kyle Evans stood tall in his Marine Corps dress blues, a striking blend of midnight and scarlet, his posture so rigid it could have been sculpted from stone. The polished metals on his chest caught the glow of the crystal chandeliers, forming a neat, gleaming block of color. At his sides, two younger Marines mirrored his unwavering stance, every line of their bearing disciplined and exact. Evans's sharp gaze settled on the elderly man before the check-in desk. James O'Donnell, 86 years old, did not respond right away. He stood still as if attuned to some faint sound only he could hear, a distant echo from another lifetime. He wore plain khaki trousers and a battered leather jacket that had long ago taken the shape of its owner. Lily, his granddaughter, a woman in her early 20s, laid a protective hand on his forearm. "No, Captain, everything's fine," she said, voice bright but taut. "We're just checking in. My grandfather was invited to the ball." Captain Evans's stare traveled from the lines in James's face to the scuffed sleeve of his jacket, pausing on a small circular patch so frayed its design was almost lost. A faint, condescending smile tugged at the captain's mouth. "Invited?" he said. "This is the Marine Corps birthday ball, miss. It's for active duty personnel, honored veterans, and their registered guests. We must keep the entrance secure." His tone was clipped and patronizing, as though explaining something simple to a child. James finally turned. His eyes, a pale, clear blue, met the captain's with a calm, watchful steadiness that seemed to drink in the lobby's harsh light rather than reflect it. He said nothing. His silence was a sharp foil to Evans' crisp agitation. That quiet annoyed the captain, who read it not as dignity but as the fog of senility. "Sir, I'll need to see identification," Evans demanded. "And your invitation?" he added, voice hardening. The two junior Marines shifted uneasily behind him, a ripple of discomfort disturbing their perfect posture. Lily fumbled in her purse. "Here, I have it," she said. "His name is James O'Donnell. He's a guest of General Morrison." The general's name made Evans hesitate for a heartbeat, but his arrogance returned. He accepted the invitation, barely glancing at it. "O'Donnell," he repeated, tasting the name and finding it ordinary. "I don't see that on the general's list." In his mind, the old man was lying. In that moment, rank and authority were the only truth. A small crowd gathered. Guests in evening gowns and dress uniforms paused en route to the ballroom, drawn by the confrontation. Whispers rustled through the lobby like dry leaves as the air tightened with tension. James remained an unmoving presence, his hand resting lightly on the check-in counter, an island of calm amid rising hostility. Emboldened by the onlookers, Evans pressed on, seeing only an old man cluttering his polished institution. "What unit, Mr. O'Donnell? Served at the Chosen Reservoir? I'm sure you have stories. Maybe you can tell them somewhere else." The insult was a polite dismissal of a life's worth of service. Lily's face flamed. "My grandfather served. He has every right to be here." Evans answered smoothly, like glass. "Everyone served, miss, but this event is for a certain caliber of service member. We can't have just anyone wandering in off the street claiming to be a war hero." He waved toward James's jacket. "No uniform, no cover, no ID. For all I know, this is an act." The humiliation pressed on Lily like a physical weight, but James seemed untouched. His gaze drifted past the captain to the windows that framed the city beyond, as if the spectacle were a trivial buzzing fly among heavier memories. That detachment enraged Evans more than any argument could. He wanted a reaction to validate his dominance. He stepped closer, invading James's space, his voice dropping to a low, threatening tone. "I'm trying to be respectful, old man, but my patience is wearing thin. You and your granddaughter need to leave this hotel now." He jabbed a finger at the faded patch on James's sleeve. "What's this, anyway? A souvenir?" The instant his skin brushed the worn threads, the lobby's sterile calm fractured. For a heartbeat, James was transported. The thunder of helicopter rotors in humid jungle air, the acrid bite of jet fuel and wet earth, and the same emblem, newly sewn then, on the flank of a Huey gunship, a coiled serpent, fangs bared around a jagged lightning bolt, crackling with immediate violent energy. The vision vanished as swiftly as it arrived, and the marble floor and watching crowd snapped back into place. Captain Evans saw only a faded patch and a placid old man. Only James perceived the gulf between the lobby's present and the patch's buried past. Leaning against a pillar, Gunnery Sergeant Miller had watched the exchange and felt disgust grow like a slow burn. A retired Marine in his late 50s, now heading hotel security. He recognized Evans for what he was, a spit-shined product of peacetime military bureaucracy, armed with regulation but ignorant of the unwritten codes of honor that truly bound them. Miller saw Evans wield rank like a bludgeon and felt sick. He also recognized something in James's eyes, a composed stillness forged in hardships Evans could not imagine. Miller stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Captain," he rumbled, "everything all right here?" Evans shot back with venom. "I've got this under control, Sergeant." "Return to your post." The captain's curt order was a deliberate power play. Miller tightened his jaw. He knew arguing further would only worsen things. He had watched the moment unfold since Evans opened his mouth and knew the man would soon cross a line. Miller gave James a small, almost imperceptible nod of solidarity, then slipped back toward the hotel's administrative offices. He did not reach for his radio. This needed a different level of authority. He pulled his cell and dialed a number he had not used in years, a direct line once given to him by a general's aide for emergencies. The call connected on the second ring. "Colonel Henderson," came the brisk, busy voice. Miller kept his tone low. "Colonel, this is Gunny Miller at the Grand Majestic. You need to get down to the lobby right now." There was a pause. "I'm on my way to the ballroom." "What is it?" the colonel asked with a hint of impatience. Miller answered, "Captain Evans is confronting one of the general's guests, an elderly gentleman." "He's making a scene," the colonel swore under his breath. "Who is the guest?" Miller inhaled. "James O'Donnell." A profound silence stretched over the line. The name struck the colonel like cold water. In his temporary command office on the hotel's top floor, Colonel Henderson went still, phone pressed to his ear. The name cleared away trivialities. "James O'Donnell," he repeated. He sounded tight, urgent. "Did you say James O'Donnell?" Miller confirmed. Henderson dropped the phone into its cradle and lunged for his laptop, fingers flying. He pulled up a heavily encrypted, limited-access file and typed the name. A sparse record flickered into view, marked with the highest security flag. Most of it was blacked out, but one line was unmistakable. Project Viper. A cold sweat prickled his forehead. He slammed the direct connect button to General Morrison's suite. "Sir," he said without ceremony, "you need to come to the lobby immediately." "Can it wait?" The general grunted. "No, sir. It's James O'Donnell. Captain Evans is detaining him." The general's reaction was immediate. The silence on the other end was the sound of a man confronting a ghost. "Get my security detail," he ordered, voice low and dangerous. "Meet me at the service elevator in 2 minutes. And Henderson, tell Evans not to lay a hand on him. If he so much as breathes wrong, I will personally end his career. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Henderson replied. But the line had already gone dead. He scrambled for his jacket and barked for his aide. "Get the sergeant major. Tell him it's about Iron Viper." Back in the lobby, Evans basked in his assumed triumph. The crowd hushed, James silent, Lily near tears. He had imposed his will. All that remained was the final dismissive flick of his wrist to send them away. He leaned in, a malicious smirk curling his lips. "Look, old man, this has gone on long enough. You want to play soldier? Fine." He straightened and, with a cruel, self-satisfied smile, prepared the punchline only he thought funny. "Every real warrior has a call sign," Evans said, his voice laced with mockery. "What was yours?" "Let me guess. Pops, old-timer, Grandpa." He chuckled. The two Marines behind him shifted, the joke lost on them. Lily opened her mouth to protest, to scream, to do anything, but James lifted a hand to gently quiet her. Then, fixing his gaze on Captain Evans for the first time, the placid calm evaporated and something ancient and hard settled in his features. His voice, when it came, was not the frail rasp of age, but a rough, commanding tone that sounded like stone grinding on stone. "My call sign," James O'Donnell said, each word falling into the dead lobby like a shard of ice, "was Iron Viper." At that instant, the grand double doors burst open, not with a gentle swing, but thrown wide with a disciplined force that seized the attention of everyone in the room. A powerful current of authority swept through the grand, majestic hotel lobby. This wasn't hotel security or local law enforcement, it was something far greater. General Morrison, a two-star Marine legend whose very presence commanded respect, strode into the room. His dress blues were flawless, his chest a gleaming wall of ribbons and medals, each one representing a chapter of sacrifice across 35 years of service. Beside him moved his sergeant major, a man carved from discipline and duty, and 4 Marines in full uniform, each step they took radiating precision and power. The lobby fell into complete silence. The air itself seemed to tighten. Every Marine, every guest, every hotel employee instinctively stood straighter, caught in the invisible pull of military decorum. Captain Evans froze. The confident smirk vanished from his face, replaced by a ghostly pallor. His mind struggled to make sense of what he was seeing. The general, who should have been upstairs preparing to preside over the Marine Corps birthday ball, was instead marching straight toward him with the unrelenting focus of a missile locked on target. But General Morrison didn't look at Evans. He didn't acknowledge the crowd, the whispers, or even the marble grandeur around him. His eyes, sharp, burning with purpose, were locked on one man, James O'Donnell. Crossing the lobby with measured, echoing steps, the general stopped exactly 3 feet in front of the elderly veteran. Then, with crisp precision, he raised his hand and rendered the sharpest, most reverent salute of his career. It wasn't the perfunctory gesture given to a superior officer. It was the deep, soul-felt salute of a warrior honoring a legend. "Mr. O'Donnell!" The general's voice thundered through the stillness, filling every corner of the lobby. "It is an honor, sir." He held the salute for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. James finally gave a small, weary nod, a simple acknowledgement from a man long past needing ceremony. Only then did the general lower his hand. When Morrison turned toward Captain Evans, the weight of his fury filled the air. Evans stood pale and trembling, eyes wide with dawning horror. The general faced the onlookers now, his voice calm but commanding. "For those who do not know," he began, "allow me to explain who stands before you." He spoke without notes, each word steeped in reverence. During a war this nation prefers not to remember, there were missions that never made it to official reports. Operations carried out deep behind enemy lines by men who officially didn't exist. Their casualty rates approached 100%. They were ghosts, men who went where others could not and did what others dared not. He paused. Among those nameless units, one became legend. A 5-man team whispered about only as the Vipers. The general's gaze returned to James. This man didn't just serve with them, he founded them. He led them. He was the only one who came home. He earned the Distinguished Service Cross, 3 Silver Stars, and a Navy Cross awarded in a classified ceremony so secret the president himself was not present. The crowd held its breath. His operational name, the one feared by our enemies and revered by every Marine who's heard the stories, was Iron Viper. A collective gasp swept through the lobby. Guests raised their phones openly now, capturing what could only be described as a living legend being recognized before their eyes. Lily stood motionless beside her grandfather, tears streaming down her cheeks as understanding and pride washed over her. Then the general turned his full wrath on Captain Evans. His voice dropped to a controlled, lethal calm. "You, Captain," he said, each word like a hammer blow, "stand in a uniform forged by men like him. You wear the eagle, globe, and anchor that he bled to honor. And you used it to humiliate him." He stepped closer, his tone cutting like a blade. "You mistook humility for weakness. You mistook dignity for confusion. You failed the first duty of a Marine officer, to recognize greatness, even when it wears no rank. He leaned in. Report to my office at 600. You will surrender your command. Then we'll discuss your future, if you have one. The crowd shifted, a collective flinch of second-hand embarrassment. The silence was thick and absolute, until James O'Donnell spoke softly. He placed a hand, frail but steady, on the general's sleeve. "General," he said gently, "let the boy be." The general's expression softened instantly. "Sir," he began, but James shook his head. "We were all young once," James said, his tone calm, wise. "We all thought we knew everything. The uniform's heavy, General. Takes time to learn how to wear it with grace." It wasn't forgiveness, it was understanding, the kind only earned through surviving both war and life itself. As James's words faded, an image flickered in his memory, decades old. A young lieutenant in a sweltering tent, watching a 19-year-old soldier stitch a serpent and lightning bolt onto a flight jacket. "What do we call ourselves, sir?" the boy asked. "They say we strike from nowhere," the young James replied, eyes on the map before him. "Fast as lightning, deadly as a viper. They won't see us coming." He touched the patch. "We'll be the Vipers." It hadn't been bravado, just purpose. A promise to endure. The fallout from that night was immediate. Videos of the incident spread online within hours, though military officials worked swiftly to scrub James O'Donnell's identity, preserving the privacy he had earned 1,000 times over. Captain Evans was relieved of command, as promised, but not dismissed. His new assignment was one of humility and redemption, to design and lead a corps-wide program on the legacy of special operations and the importance of honoring veterans of all generations. The Marine Corps issued a formal apology, not to James by name, but to every veteran who had ever been overlooked or disrespected. Life eventually returned to quiet simplicity for James and Lily. The ball had been beautiful, the honors heartfelt, but he sought no spotlight. Weeks later, in their favorite diner with its cracked vinyl booths and the smell of coffee in the air, the doorbell jingled. Captain Evans entered, dressed in civilian clothes. He paused when he saw them, shame and uncertainty written on his face. After a long hesitation, he approached. Lily tensed, but James remained calm. Evans stopped at their table, unable to meet the old man's eyes. "Sir, Mr. O'Donnell," he began softly. "I just wanted to say," he faltered, words failing him. James didn't need them. He simply gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Sit down, son," he said, voice steady and kind. "Coffee's good here. Tell me about yourself." The story of Iron Viper reminds us that true heroes rarely seek recognition. Their valor is quiet, their strength humble, their legacy eternal. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Veterans Valor, where we honor the courage, sacrifice, and humanity of those who served.